Yeah, we'll get started. Well, welcome everyone. So glad to see you all. This is the informational webinar for the FY27 Arts Project Support Program, both the spring and fall cycles. Um, I'm Maya. I'm the Executive Director of the Indiana Arts Commission. I'm joined by Eric Ashby, our Director of Programs. You'll also hear later from Britt Feckman, who is our grants manager. She'll walk you through the online system. Again, delighted for you to be here. Just a couple of quick housekeeping things. If you would, keep your microphone on mute. There'll be an opportunity at the end to ask questions. Plus, also, you are welcome to drop questions in the chat box as they come up. A note regarding accessibility. If you need accommodations for our guidelines or for the application, please get in touch with our accessibility coordinator, and you can see the email and the phone number there. And if you need help with captions or accessibility for this webinar, please send a direct message via chat to Andre Zangsanera, our Deputy Director, who is also on this Zoom. Quickly, because we sometimes get this question in the chat, we are recording this. You will get a copy of the recording, or you will have access to the recording. You will also have access to the slides as well. So those will be coming to you. So a little bit about us. I'm guessing because you're here, you might know a little bit about us and who we are and what we do, but just in case not, it's your first encounter with us. We're an agency of state government, and our funding comes primarily from two sources: the Indiana General Assembly and the National Endowment for the Arts. A core component to our commitment to investing in the state's vibrant and rich arts and culture sector are grants, which enrich people and communities through arts organizations and arts projects. So that's a little bit about us. Here's our agenda for today's webinar. We're going to talk through the program goals. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to hand it off to Eric, who's going to talk about eligibility for the program, share the program timeline, talk about grant awards, grantee requirements and reporting, the grant evaluation process and criteria, and then he'll hand it off to Brett, the fabulous Brett, who will walk you through our online grant system and do a quick demo of that. And then we'll open it up for questions that you might have. So let's talk a little bit about what this program is and what its goals are. But first, I want to mention that we do this program alongside our regional arts partners. And those are entities across the state who are essentially our boots on the ground as it relates to helping make sure you have direct access to our programs and services. And you can see the list of organizations that are our arts partners. And Andre has helpfully dropped into the chat how you can connect with your regional arts partner. Above and beyond this program, they are a wealth of information about arts and culture in your area. They're helpful in connecting you with other people, other organizations. They do their own workshops and capacity building and so forth. They are a great resource for you. And if you don't know them and you're not connected with them, this is a great opportunity to do that. In fact, it's our sort of first step recommendation if you're a first-time applicant to this program or to any program of the IACs, to connect with our regional arts partner and chat with them and get to know them and tell them a little bit about your project. Okay, so that's our regional arts partners, and I think we have a few partners on today's webinar, and we thank them for making the time to be here. So a little bit about this particular program, our Arts Project Support. In a nutshell, it provides funding to support a public-facing short-term arts project or a series of arts activities. Some of those examples might be, but this is by no means an inclusive list: performances, exhibits, arts festivals, arts and cultural planning, arts learning for a specific population such as older adults or youth, public art, or some other arts-based or arts-serving activity. So it's pretty broad, which is great. And again, this is just a short list. You may have others. And of course, it'd be a great opportunity to chat with your arts partner, your regional arts partner in your area about another project that might not be on this list that you might be interested as to whether or not it's eligible or not. The goals of the program, pretty simple: to provide Indiana's people and communities access to arts experiences. Here at the IAC, we are committed to investing directly in all 92 counties. And this program really serves as our first and best access program for arts opportunities. So we are really looking to seed all kinds of arts activities across the state, and this program is a great tool to do that. Program outcomes. What we want to see as the result of our investment is in every Indiana county, people and communities have access to arts experiences, as I just said, and that historically underserved geographies and populations benefit. Okay, some changes that we started in FY26 that continue on into FY27. We have a streamlined application and scoring rubric. You will see that again once you, if you haven't engaged before with the program, you'll notice that, and if you've engaged but it's been a while, you'll notice that the application is simpler and the scoring rubric is much more straightforward. Another change that we implemented in 26 that we are continuing into 27 is that there will no longer be public grant panels. Your application will be reviewed by a team of external reviewers. So you will still get that external eye on your application. They will just no longer convene for a public grant panel. That's a change we implemented last year. It went well. We're continuing it into this next round of arts project support programs. Fiscal sponsorship. Should you need fiscal sponsorship, you will need to contact us in advance before you begin an application, which will be initiated with the eligibility quiz, which Eric will talk to you a little bit about later. If you are a college and university, change that we implemented in 26 that we are continuing on is that projects are eligible if they provide either a community arts learning experience for grades pre-K through 12 on their home campus or somewhere else, or they are providing an arts activity in a high priority geographic service county. And you will find in the application a list of those high priority service counties. So that is a change that we have implemented for colleges and universities. So if you have questions about that, we're happy to help you with that. But that is a change as in what is eligible from colleges and universities. And also 501c6 tourism entities and chambers of commerce are also eligible. That's a change. Again, we implemented this last year and it worked well, and we will continue that. And I believe that is all for me. Yeah, I'm going to pass it on to Eric, and Eric's going to talk about the eligibility tool.
Thanks, Maya. Good morning, everyone. Great to be with you. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Eric. I'm the Director of Programs here at the IAC, and talk a little bit about eligibility here. And you'll see this briefly when Britt does a demo later. But when you log into the IAC online grant system and you go to the apply page to find this opportunity, the first thing that will be there is this eligibility tool that has a couple very simple questions just as a pre-screen to determine eligibility for the program. Depending on the answers to those questions, if it's deemed eligible, it'll move forward to the application. You'll be able to then access the application. Like we mentioned earlier, fiscally sponsored applications will be stopped by the eligibility tool with a prompt to reach out to the Arts Commission to confirm eligibility. And do want to remind everyone that moving past the eligibility tool doesn't necessarily guarantee final eligibility for the program. The project itself has to be eligible, and there's a final eligibility review by regional arts partners and IAC staff before moving applications forward in the review process. So that eligibility tool is there and available and is very short, and it's there to make sure that people don't start an application if they aren't eligible. We want to make sure we aren't wasting anyone's time. So diving in specifically to the grant program eligibility, like Maya mentioned earlier, this has pretty broad eligibility. 501c3 arts organizations in any discipline are eligible. Also, 501c3 nonprofit entities outside the arts, like social service organizations, Main Streets, also eligible for the program. C6 tourism entities and chambers of commerce, local units of government, public libraries, public and private schools, of course, that are providing either a public performance artist residency or after school programming, some sort of public facing component to the work that they're doing in the pre-K through 12 schools, fiscally sponsored applicants, and then colleges and universities that meet the specific criteria we've gone over. Couple additional eligibility requirements to keep in mind. Applicants must be incorporated with the state of Indiana, in the state of Indiana at the time of application and for the duration of the grant period. Must also be physically located in Indiana with a majority of programs, services, activities engaging Indiana audiences and participants. Important to note, arts organizations that are currently receiving arts organization support, AOS, that is a 2-year grant and you are not eligible to apply for FY27 project support. Projects that are already funded through a current IAC grant are not eligible for this program, meaning that if you've already got an IAC grant funding a project, that ongoing project cannot be used in this application for additional funding. That project needs to conclude, and then a new one needs to begin that you would apply this funding to. Okay, we'll talk through some timelines here, and I want to note we offer arts project support twice in a single fiscal year now. So I'm going to go through 2 timelines and note that everything we are talking about in this webinar applies to both cycles of arts project support. This is the webinar that covers both the spring, which is the one we're in right now, and the fall cycle, which I'll go over in a second, go through the timeline for that. So 2 cycles, 2 opportunities to apply for arts project support. You may only receive one arts project support grant in a single fiscal year. So if you're funded in the spring, you cannot apply again in the fall. But if you're not funded in the spring, you could apply again in the fall or just apply in the fall if this timing isn't quite right. So I just want to note this is for both cycles, and I'll go through the timelines here. So applications are open in the spring cycle as we speak. The draft review deadline, and we'll go through the draft review process in a little bit. The deadline to request that is February 23rd. The deadline to submit an application is March 5th, and please note that late applications are not accepted. All applications are final following that deadline there. Funding notifications will go out by July 1st. And we hope that that date will stick. It is subject to change if there are timeline changes with federal funding for the agency, but we will keep everyone updated on that, and we're hopeful for a July 1st notification. And then that grant period will begin on July 1st and run through June 30th of the following year, with a final grant report due July 15th of 2027. Here is the fall program timeline. This is the second cycle, also FY27 Arts Project Support, just the second time it's being offered, and that will open in the summer, July 7th. Again, subject to change if there are federal funding delays. The state fiscal year begins on July 1, so again, we'll keep you updated if there are any changes there. The draft review deadline is August 24th, with a deadline for the application itself on September 3rd, and then funding notification right before the end of the year on December 21st, and then this grant period follows the calendar year, and with a final report due all the way out there in 2028, which is kind of crazy. All righty. A little bit about the grant awards. Applicants may request up to $4,000. You can request up to $4,000. If you request $4,000, it has no impact on the evaluation in any way. So please request what you need for your project. Applicants that request less than $4,000 or up to $4,000 are not viewed any differently in the review process. So please do request what you need for your project up to $4,000. No matching funds are required for this program, and applicants that are recommended for funding will receive the full amount requested pending completion of any outstanding grant reports or compliance check. And if everything comes through in good standing and all the reports and everything else are submitted and good to go, applicants are eligible to be paid in full at the beginning of the grant period. If there are other things that need to be resolved or outstanding reports, the IAC may split the grant payment into two payments, but we'll communicate directly with grantees on that and work together on those things. Important to note that the percentage of funded applicants will depend on the size of the applicant pool and available funds in the IAC budget. This program is been growing increasingly popular and competitive. And so if you've been around in the arts project support program for a while, it is a much more competitive environment in this program than it used to be. But again, as Maya mentioned earlier, the main focus of this program is providing broad accessibility to arts experiences across the state. So we remain committed to that in this program. Couple grantee requirements. This would be if you receive an arts project support grant, applicants must be in good standing with the following: the state of Indiana, Indiana Arts Commission, and your regional arts partner as well. You'll enter into a binding contract with the state of Indiana. Payments are distributed via direct deposit. There are public acknowledgement requirements with the use of logos of both the IAC and your regional arts partner. And the full requirements are all linked there in the guidelines on the requirements document that is in there, so you can review those in their totality. Couple other things. Eligible expenses are an important piece of the equation, and those are also listed on that policy document. But as you're completing your budgets and your application, important to remember that food and beverage, cash awards and prizes, and fundraising expenses are some of the expenses that are not eligible expenses to use IAC funds on. There are others, but those are some of the ones that often come up in these applications more often, so please be aware of that. The IC reserves the right to request documentation of grant expenditures following the grant period and may conduct spot audits to ensure expense eligibility and policy compliance. The IC may also request a site visit to learn more about the project funding and use of funding. Monitor record retention and tax responsibilities. Following the conclusion of the grant, all grant-related records need to be kept on file for 3 years from the date of the submission of the final report. And then there are various federal laws and policies that grantees are required to adhere to that are all incorporated in the grant contract, and you can see those listed out in the policy document as well. Okay, more requirements, reporting requirements. So this is on the final report. Some of the things that are asked there are fairly standard metrics around who was served, how many people were served, where were they coming from, were most local, or was there more tourism involved in this, and then a final budget, of course. So a fairly straightforward final report at the end of the grant period. And then now we'll move into the evaluation process and the grant criteria. So all applications will be evaluated by how well they meet the criteria in this program. There are 3 criteria buckets for the Arts Project Support Program. And again, this applies to both cycles, spring and fall: project quality and planning, community benefit, and project management. And in the guidelines on the website, the evaluation criteria and the scoring rubric are all linked there, so you can see all of that. The scoring rubric is attached to every reviewed question, so you can kind of go through the application and match the scored question to the scoring rubric as a guide for what reviewers are going to be looking for as they review applications. So breaking these criteria down a little further, and project quality and planning is looking at the extent to which the project provides a quality artistic or cultural experience for the community, the extent to which the project timeline is defined and aligned with the project description. And then in the community benefit section, reviewers will be looking for the extent to which the applicant can describe the intended audience the project will serve, the extent to which the applicant can describe how the community will benefit from the project, and then the extent to which intentional efforts are made to directly engage underserved populations. And the project management criteria point, reviewers will be looking for the extent to which the project team has relevant skills and knowledge to administer the project. And then they'll look at the budget, project spending aligned with the project description. So those are the criteria, and we'll go through here the different sections of the application, and you'll see some of this when Britt goes through the application, but I'll walk through what the questions are in the application here. So just like in most of our grant programs, there'll be a before you begin section that'll have all of the links that we're mentioning here today. The link to the webinar will be there, the guidelines, the evaluation criteria, all the deadlines will be there. And then there'll be a couple overview questions. These are not evaluated questions, but they just are descriptive pieces, the project start and end dates, the discipline of the project, what type of activity is it, and the your grant ID that you'll fill out in that section. And then sections 3, 4, and 5 are the sections that reviewers are going to be looking at. And these all map on to the evaluation criteria I just went to and the rubric that you'll see in there. So for project quality and planning, there'll be a question that is about the project description. That is, tell us in a nutshell everything about the project, give us kind of a complete summary of what's happening, what you're doing, where you're doing it, description of the key artistic personnel involved in delivering that project. And then there is optional artistic documentation upload where you could put a link or upload an actual document that helps to demonstrate and communicate the quality of the project to reviewers. It is optional, so it's there to sort of enhance the narrative if that would be helpful, but it is not required. This section will also have space to list a timeline of activities for the project as a whole. In the next section, community benefit, uh, this asks a question around community benefit, defining who the project audience is, who are you seeking to serve with this project, and how will they benefit from participating in your project. The next narrative asks around about how the project is engaging underserved populations in the planning and implementation. And then there's a final question in this section that is not reviewed by evaluators, but is a compliance check for the Indiana Arts Commission as a state agency around compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, Section 504. If you've applied to our grants before, this will be very familiar to you. It's in all of our grant applications, and so that will be there to confirm your processes for making accommodations should there be accessibility requests to participate in your project. And then lastly, section 5, project management. This section outlines who the project management team is, who's going to be administering the project, managing the project, and what is the budget for the project. And that's it. And then you sign it and send it off. So as we get toward the online grant system here, all applications must be submitted through the IAC online grant system. If you're a new applicant, you must create an account and be logged in to fill out and complete an application. So make sure if you've never applied before, please do set up an account first and then go into the application. If you're not sure if your organization has an account or not, feel free to reach out to grants admin at iac.in.gov, and we'll put that contact info will be at the end here as well. Feel free to reach out and we can check and see if your organization already has an account on file. And then if you're a returning applicant, you'll use your same login credentials, and this opportunity will show up on the apply page. Now, a quick note on draft review before I hand it over to Britt to show you the online system. Draft review is conducted by our regional arts partners. They are available to first-time applicants and applicants not currently receiving funds from the IAC. Do not submit your application. Very important. Please do not submit it. If you'd like a draft review, you must request that via email to your regional arts partner by those deadlines listed there. So for the cycle that's open now, February 23rd is the deadline to request a draft review. And these draft reviews are not total overhauls of your application. These are quick reviews that offer general feedback about application completeness and clarity. So I'd recommend filling out the entire application, getting everything out there before requesting a draft review so you can get the most out of that opportunity. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Britt and stop my screen share momentarily. So give us a second while Britt gets up the online system and shares that. And she is going to walk through what our online system looks like and a couple of the key functionality features with that. So Britt, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, can everyone see this apply page? Okay,
Yes.
wonderful. So obviously, if you're in this webinar, you probably got here through the IAC Arts Project Support webpage, but I just want to call that out because that's where you will also find the link that says submit your application here, and that will prompt you to make a login in Foundant. That's our grant system, and that's what you're seeing here. So once you've created your account in Foundant, if you don't already have one, you'll log in, and then it may automatically take you to the home page, but you'll want to make sure that you're on the apply page, which you can click here at the top left corner, and that's going to show you this. First step would be taking the eligibility quiz, which is here. I already took it for our test application, so it already popped up the Spring Arts Project Support application down at the bottom. But for most of you who have not taken the eligibility quiz yet, you'll take that first. If it does bounce you back because of fiscal sponsor requirements or anything else, our grants administration email is listed and you can email us and we can get you moved on to the next process if you're eligible. And then once you are ready, you can hit apply. I'm going to go ahead and take you to my home page because I've already started an application. Once you have an application already started in drafts, this is where you'll go to continue your application. If you start clicking apply on the apply page a bunch of times, you'll just start a bunch of draft applications. So once you've already clicked on it, make sure that you're coming here to the home page and you'll see the draft that you're currently working on. And I'm going to walk you through some features within the system. So note, your organization information is here at the top as well as the applicant information. If you have multiple people in your organization that want to work on this application together, we have a really nifty feature called Collaborate, and you can invite people to collaborate with you on the APS application. Now I'm going to just quickly go through this because Eric has walked through all of the content, but I just want to show you the functionalities of the system. So we do have the ability to print the application packet if you would rather see it, on paper in front of you and go through it that way. You're welcome to do that, as well as the question list. And those will download in PDFs on your browser. As Eric was mentioning, we have quick access links listed here. The webinar recording will be listed here as well once we're finished with the recording today and it's ready to be loaded. And just so you know, as you're going through each section, you can actually click this arrow as well, and that will pull it up for you so that it's a little bit easier for you to go through and you can just give yourself a visual of what you've already completed. Make sure when you're going through these project start dates and end dates that you're really following the grant period that's listed there as well. And then I just want to draw your attention to this artistic documentation upload section. So I do have a lot of explanation about Google Doc links specifically. Make sure that if you are linking a Google Doc link that you're also changing the permissions within your Google Doc settings so that it's available to anyone with the link. If you do not do that, our reviewers will not see it because we don't want them requesting permission from your Google Doc. So make sure that if you are putting a Google Drive link in here, that you're changing those permissions. And then if you do put a link, it would be helpful if you provide a link description for the reviewers as well. As we mentioned earlier about accessibility, there is an accessibility section here as well. So make sure that you are closely reading those guidelines that are listed and filling that out appropriately. or reach out to Andre if you have any questions about that. For your budget section, I just want to call this out really quickly because this comes up a lot. You will put the amount that you're requesting here. And then when you are adding in the income, make sure that you include that amount for the grant request that you are requesting as well. So if you request 4,000, make sure to put 4,000 and next to it in the income description, put IAC grant award there. And then once you're done and everything's ready and you think you're good to submit, go ahead and hit submit application. Like Eric mentioned earlier, if you want a draft review, rather than clicking that submit button right away, just send an email to your regional arts partner and start that draft review process. Is there anything else that I missed, Eric?
Nope, I think that covered it. Thanks,
Okay,
Brett.
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen then. Thank you, everyone.
So thanks, Brett. Appreciate it. If you have any questions or issues with the online system, feel free to reach out to the grants admin email and we'll hop in and help out. A couple recommendations before you get started on the application. If you're a first-time applicant, like Maya mentioned earlier, connecting with your regional arts partner is the first step. Make sure they know who you are. You have that draft review option available to you. Highly recommend initiating that process sooner rather than later. It'll put you in the best position to submit the best application possible for your project. Make sure you're reviewing the APS program guidelines in full, and having that evaluation criteria and scoring rubric pulled up and available to you as you're starting the application. And we just went through most of the application there. Definitely recommend taking some time to sit with just the application in its entirety before starting to put pen to paper. And then as you complete the application, clear and thorough, always best, answering every question in the narrative. If you're making claims, especially in the community benefit section, making sure that there are some evidence to substantiate the claims. And another key piece as you complete the application is the external reviewers. Some are in state, some are out of state, and they're in different parts of the state. They likely may not and probably will not know your organization or your project. So assuming existing knowledge is not a good practice. So avoid any assumptions that the reviewers already know your organization, your project. Tell a complete story in the application so they can understand the good work that you're doing. So in closing, couple contacts here. We mentioned that grants admin email a bunch. There it is. Please feel free to reach out to that if you've got questions on the online system or the eligibility tool. Please reach out to your regional arts partner for questions about the program and your project in particular. For accessibility accommodations or questions about accessibility, we have the accessibility email listed there as well. And with that, I think we've got some space for questions here. So feel free to put those in the chat, or you can come off mute and ask those. I'm gonna stop the screen share here. And yeah, happy to take some questions.